Image and Form are the developers responsible for the Steamworld games. Before they entered the more core gaming scene, they focused on making education games for many years. From doing the similar type of work for several years, Image and Form wanted to really encourage the idea of trying to make games for different genres and not staying with just one thing. The Steamworld series is a unique and consistently charming series. I do think a big part of this is related to its art style. It is something that really catches your eye, and the gameplay is what keeps you coming back. The first Steamworld game was a tower defense game, and it was the first entry into this expanding set of games. Instead of following up their sequel with another tower defense game, the developers chose to take Steamworld in another direction by shifting their focus into making an action platformer. Steamworld Dig is a fun platformer that many enjoyed. The developers yet again decided to not make an immediate sequel to their recent entry, but instead focus on shifting their direction again with their Steamworld universe. Their third entry was Steamworld Heist. The developers wanted to play with the idea of essentially making a 2D XCOM game. Heist focused on turn-based battles and strategy rather than platforming. It was the developer's first RPG, and it was a really good one. The game offers loads of content, and the combat required the player to think about their surroundings and use cover appropriately, since the enemy and the player could shoot bullets off of walls as a means to hit harder targets. It was addicting and very good. The studio decided to look back to one of their earlier entries for their next game. They decided to make a sequel for Steamworld Dig, and the sequel was even better. The sequel provided a nice graphical upgrade along with deeper progression systems and more options to explore. The game provided a very addicting loop of finding treasures and buying upgrades. I wanted to give a brief history of the developer's Steamworld games, as it shows a pattern with them. They continually try to find new ways to adapt their universe. They do not take the safe route and just make sequels, but rather are motivated by trying different genres within the same universe, and they have done this successfully. To clarify, it is seen by their games that the developers take a lot of time and care to naturally integrate their universe into different genres. This isn't haphazard, this is hard work and solid execution. Addicting and charming are the two words that I use to describe their games. Whether you are trying to find the best position for a shot in Heist, or trying to find as many treasures before heading back to your base in Dig 2, these games are very fun. And with this, the developer wanted to take another stab at the RPG genre, but from a different angle. Steamworld Quest aims to capture the magic of their universe while focusing on a turn-based and card-focused combat. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my review for Steamworld Quest. Steamworld Quest is a card-focused, turn-based combat RPG. Battles are not random and take place when you initiate a fight by attacking an enemy or if they touch you. I do not have a problem with random battles, but I know that many will take some relief in that you can avoid fights if you do not want to participate in them. The moves you can choose are decided by the cards you have placed in your deck for each of the characters. You have an active party of 3, and you can interchange party members to create the party you want. Inactive party members do receive experience points for successful battles, but they only get a fraction of the amount that active party members will earn. Each character has a specific amount of cards that can be slotted for battles. This requires you to think about your strategy and how you want to go about the fights with the enemies. Cards are used for offensive attacks, power attacks, buffs, debuffs, and healing moves. You will want to have a combination of these cards in your deck to succeed. Another thing to consider are the cards that build steam pressure and then the cards that use steam pressure. Essentially, what would be normal attacks in a regular turn-based RPG are the ones that help to build up steam pressure, and then the attacks that would usually cost mana in normal RPGs are the ones that use steam pressure. So you will want to fill your deck with cards that will help you earn steam pressure to help you use those harder hitting attacks. Since each battle starts with a random set of cards from your deck, each fight has this feeling of you trying to improvise with what you have on hand, since you can't specifically select cards from your decks. This element of randomness adds to the intensity and the sense of satisfaction from battles. Improvising with successful battles makes the player feel empowered. With each turn, you get the option to redraw 2 cards if you want the chance to get something else. Another layer to the card mechanics is the use of chains. Each turn you can use 3 cards. If you use all 3 cards from the same person's deck, then you will have a chain that will essentially add a 4th card to your attack. That 4th attack type is determined by the weapons you have equipped. The chain attack cards come in different forms, like doing more damage or being able to provide individual shields for each of your party members. There's a lot to consider when you're making your deck and what to do while in battle. I really like the personalization that you can bring to the battles through making your character's decks. New cards are continually introduced to the player, along with the ability to upgrade the cards you have with the materials that you have earned from battles. There's an interesting and unique system here where you need to be proactive and consider your deck and what options those decks will provide you with in battle. And during the battles, you're trying to figure out how to effectively use the cards that have been dealt to you from the decks that you made. You will also want to plan for situations if your character is downed or paralyzed, because if you have those cards on hand for that character that is downed or paralyzed, then you will not be able to use those and they'll be taking up space in your deck. This may sound like there's a learning curve to using the deck and the battles, but I want to reassure you that the gameplay is very familiar to anyone who has played a turn-based RPG before. The mechanics are introduced to the player at a good pace, and the game does a good job at explaining them. The battles do take up a substantial part of the game and are very enjoyable. When you are not in battles, you will be traveling across the different levels. The game is separated by chapters, and this really works well for the Switch's portability. While in the levels, you will fight a variety of different enemies, along with finding different treasure chests. In many instances, there will be a few hidden treasure chests within the level. They're either hidden behind an object or in an area that you can't see on the map. The treasures are worth seeking out because they provide you with additional cards for your decks, along with materials and money to be able to help upgrade those cards. The levels will give you a treasure completion percentage, so you know if you need to go back to that level to collect any other treasures you might have missed. After the first few chapters, you will be allowed to go back to any level you want. Generally, the levels are pretty easy to navigate, with some other levels providing more engagement with the environments. There are a few levels that sort of interweave with a lower and upper level. These levels are more engaging and satisfying to explore. The same can be said for the levels with a few puzzles for the player to solve. Another thing to consider while navigating the levels is how the save system works. Save spots will completely heal all your characters, but they also respawn all the enemies in the area. This can be good if you want to do a bit of grinding for experience points or material, but it is something to consider if you do not want the field full of respawned enemies. The treasures do provide some side distractions for you to enjoy, along with an arena you can unlock. Here you can fight a sequence of battles to earn different rewards, and it only adds more content. While I wouldn't consider the story the main selling point of the game, I did enjoy how light in tone the narrative was. There is a playfulness to the characters and their interactions with each other. The game can be pretty humorous, and this works well with the charming visuals. Overall, I like the story. Another area that deserves praise is the soundtrack. The background themes, along with several of the battle themes, really helps to fuel the action, and the soundtrack is just as memorable as their prior games. I would normally play some of the soundtrack during my review to show it off, but I've had issues in the past with using their music from their prior games and then my videos getting copyright claimed. So to be safe, I'm going to recommend you check out the soundtrack through another means, or wait until you try the game. Just know that when you do, it's going to be great. When it comes to flaws, I really don't have many that I encountered. The one area that I think would have helped this game was having more levels that ended up feeling like they interweaved with each other as you explored. I very much enjoyed the levels that would circle back to another point in the level. It gave the levels this interconnected feeling rather than just a straight line. To clarify, there are a good handful of levels within the main game that do more than just go in a straight line, whether they're having different puzzles for you to solve, or being able to have an interconnectedness to them. I would like to see an option for a New Game Plus mode to extend out my first playthrough, and I think this would be added with a great future update. Thankfully, the game does allow you to pick up before the final boss if you want to go back and grab any of the treasures that you missed or complete more of the challenge arena. This next flaw is a bit odd, so when you're walking within the levels, you will have the opportunity to slash at an enemy to start a battle and then be able to do some damage to them before it even starts. A consistent problem I found was how it would look like I could hit an enemy with my sword, but then it wouldn't connect. This usually resulted in me not hitting the enemy and then just starting the battle without the bonus. The amount of damage that you do within these situations is really small, so it's more annoying than anything else. But I feel like if you're going to include this move within your game, it should work appropriately. This is something that I think can be easily patched out. My following points are more suggestions than flaws. Since this Steamworld game is channeling the RPG genre, I do think it would have been a great opportunity to include a few mini games to change up the experience. What would have been a neat idea for the developers to do is include opportunities to be able to play these mini games, which were essentially callbacks to their prior games. So they can have a mini game that's kind of like a tower defense game, along with another mini game that's sort of like Steamworld Dig. I bring this up because many RPGs from my childhood would include mini games, and they were pretty fun to do. Regardless, Steamworld Quest is a very compelling experience. Steamworld Quest is without a doubt a game that's going to stay with me for the best reasons. I feel like Image and Form continue to try new things for their universe, and they consistently find a way to succeed. If you have played any of their prior games, then you know their quality, and you will find that same execution here. When Steamworld Quest was first announced, I was happy to hear that it was going to be an RPG, but I wasn't so crazy because it was going to be focused on cards. I generally do not like card-based combat with my RPGs, but there are exceptions. So when I started Quest, I was cautiously optimistic. I played the prior games and they hadn't disappointed me yet, and I wanted to see how they would execute this new idea. I found myself falling in love with Quest with every level I completed. I very much enjoyed the card-based battles. I enjoyed taking my time trying to figure out which cards I wanted to use, and then which cards would be best used together. How I could focus on making sure my party members could both heal and deal an appropriate amount of damage. The battles themselves gave off a lot of trying to think on the fly, and I really enjoyed that. This adds to the continual variability to the battles and helps to keep everything fresh. The soundtrack is in line with the expected quality of the prior games. Steamworld Quest is a charming and delightful RPG that I plan on playing more than once. While it is currently only on the Switch and will be on other systems in the future, if you own a Switch, this is an excellent addition to your library.